Well, hello everyone. I am back with another episode of Tattoos and Toddlers, and I do have to say I have a very, very special guest today from across the other side of the world, literally from the Australia realm of the world. I'm so excited to bring on my guest, and I'm super excited also to have this very, very spicy episode. I'm going to call it spicy because we're going to talk a lot about things that we don't normally talk about being a parent and a business owner. And I just want to forewarn you that this is going to get really good really quickly, but we're also here to be honest and real about how life is right now. So I want to thank you again for joining me today, Allison.
Oh,
I am
thank you for
so
having
excited.
me.
Feel free to introduce yourself real quick and we're going to get into the topic.
Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Ockenden. I am a mum of four, grandmother of two. My kids range from 23 down to 6. Yes, I am that idiot. And I have a business, actually I have two, Today, Tomorrow, and Always, where I make memorial jewelry. And the one we're going to be talking about, and the reason for our podcast today, is called From the Heart. I will explain a little bit more later on.
And also, yeah, I feel like we could do 2 episodes, one with just the today, tomorrow, and always, and then this one that we met on in a podcast group, and that you're
Mm,
just being real and raw and honest about topics that are either taboo or people don't want to talk about or we avoid talking about it. So I'm
yeah.
excited to kind of like bring somebody in from across the world to kind
Yeah.
of like share a little bit of her story with y'all because what we started talking about, and when I asked her about what we want to talk about as our topic today, um, being here on Tattoos and Toddlers, I try to keep it as real as possible when we are dealing with things and it's hard and we're parents and we're hard on ourselves and we're in a culture that tells us that we're not good enough constantly. And then it's just, it piles up on top of each other. And so, Allison, let's go ahead and jump into what you just shared with me about
My response to you.
what you're finding out about your children, but also you're finding out about yourself when it concerns a specific diagnosis we're talking about.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, I have four children. My 21-year-old, so I have a 23, 21, 16, and 6. So, my 21-year-old, at a very young age, at about 15, 16, started developing signs of bipolar disorder with schizophrenia. He has OCD, ROCD, BPD. He has the alphabet,
This was the
basically.
alphabet. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
anxiety, depression, like all PTSD, all the good stuff that you want your child to have, to live a normal, healthy life. Yeah, no. But I thought he was going to be my hard child. Yeah. Yeah, I love how the universe just laughs at you when you think shit like that. But currently, actually, when Jen asked me before we started recording what to talk about, I'm like, well, I feel like the worst mum in the world today. I'm feeling pretty shit. So my 6-year-old was diagnosed this year with ADHD. She is a girl. And I mention that because what I thought ADHD was is not what ADHD is.
Mm.
Um, in boys and girls, I had no idea that it was so different. When it was first mentioned to me, I said, my exact quote was, but she's not naughty, because that's what I thought ADHD was. It was the naughty kids. And then I looked into it a bit more and I realized, oh yeah, she ticks that box and that box and that box. Ended up going to a pediatrician, getting her tested, and she's now medicated and doing really well. Because of that, and having to go through all of those checklists and see what ADHD presents in girls and women, I realized, holy shit, I also have ADHD, which explains so much. So I'm in the process of still formally being tested, but like I walk like a duck, I quack like a duck, and I've got yellow feathers. It's pretty obvious. After we had her diagnosis, the school had asked me 3 or 4 times. So she's in year 1 here in Australia, and she still isn't quite picking up or catching up, to where the other kids are at school. So they have requested an ASD assessment, an autism spectrum disorder assessment. And literally yesterday, I was going through looking at all of the traits for autism. Now, for those that don't know much about it, it's a little bit like how long's a piece of string. The spectrum that autism falls on is so vast and so opposite on each end that there's no way I could sit here and try and explain it to you, because
Exactly.
it's so different for everyone. And I'd not had any kind of involvement in that. I had no exposure to that. So when I was researching it specifically yesterday, someone had done a graph that showed ADHD, gifted kids, and autism in 3 bubbles with the parts that overlap in each section. And as I was looking at the gifted and the autistic bubbles, I saw my son, my 16-year-old son. And I just went, oh boy. So picked him up from school on the days that I can get him to school, which isn't very often. And I said to him, look, I don't want to freak you out, but I want you to jump online and I want you to find an online autism test and I want you to do it. He's like, why? And I'm like, because I saw these bubbles, explain what happened. So he did. He sat there and he did the test and he's like, yeah, it came out that the last page was, you should be formally tested because it's very likely that you have autism.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy shit. So today, now that that's all sunk in with me, and I should have prefaced this with, I am one of those people that I don't give a shit about labels. I don't care if you label me as an alien with orange skin. Like, it really doesn't matter to me. The only reason labels matter to me is because it means that there's research and that people understand it and that, you're not the only one and that you can educate yourself on it more. And they know how to treat it or help you with whatever it is, because there's, it's not just nothing coming out of thin air. So that's the only reason it matters. And so now I'm like, holy shit, my child is 16. And had it not been for his little sister, I wouldn't know. Like, I would still just think that I'm lazy and useless and worthless and all of those things that ADHDers tell themselves, because our brain just hates us. And I would never have thought to get him tested. And it's funny, he has been to what is called CAMS here. It's the Children and Adolescent Mental Health Services. And he's been hearing voices all of his life. The first time that we can look back, he was about 5, but the voices are getting stronger and more frequent and quite scary. So he often has headphones in class to drown that noise out so he can focus on what the teacher's saying. Like, he has one headphone on, one headphone off. Our high school has just implemented no phones at school at all. And he's not coping because he needed that stimulation to drown out the voices. But now, now with this whole new term, I'm like, holy shit, how did no one pick this up before? How did no one pick up that his depression, anxiety, he doesn't like to touch people except me. I'm the only person in the world he hugs. He doesn't people at all. Even when it comes to eating dinner, if I tell him he has to, he will do whatever I say. But he much prefers to eat in his room. He doesn't like people watching him eat. He will only eat, certain things, exactly like my 6-year-old.
Yeah.
All of these things that when I think back on him as even a younger child, I'm like, oh God, how did this go unnoticed? And it's exactly what you said before. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And I think I used to always tell my eldest daughter that's now 23 that she was my practice child. And so when she would say to me, you would never have let me get away with that. I know, because you were my practice kid. And look how you turned out, When you burn the first pancake, kid, you turn the heat down and you try again.
Oh my gosh. No, I love that, because we were talking, just so y'all know and are on the loop, we were discussing this generational shift in education and awareness of the different, like I was telling y'all, like some of my friends call themselves neurospicy even, because there is a neurodivergent I hate labels too, but it
Mm,
also helps to educate why my friends might do one thing and another friend doesn't, or why
yeah.
do I act this way and I don't feel like it's normal, or if, not even gonna diagnose myself with anything, but I
Mm,
have definitely become more sensitive to certain kinds of crowds and noises, and
yeah.
not that, I haven't really like felt the need that I have to have headphones, but man, sometimes there are some times in my life where I almost want to have headphones because it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And this world can be a lot if, if you're
Yeah.
trying to listen to too much or you just can't handle it. I just find that interesting that generationally we're looking at ourselves now. And I think
Yes.
that's where I was going with this, is that you were going to start looking at you.
Yeah. And I think when I think of my parents' generation, their generation was still the what's it called? Corporal punishment. Is that how they used to phrase the term? If you were naughty, they would smack you on the ass. Like that was just it. You knew what the consequences were. And there was no let's talk it out and let's explain why that was wrong or
Yeah.
anything like that. And then we kind of moved into the parents, like I mean, I was 16 when I was pregnant with my daughter, but I kind of feel like I was in the middle. I was in the middle of, if you touch a PowerPoint, I'm going to smack your fingers and let you know that that's dangerous and give you that shock of, oh crap, why did you do that? But also explain, don't touch that because it's sharp. Don't touch that because it's hot. Don't, whatever it is. So I feel like my early parenting was right in between.
Yeah.
And now I've kind of moved into that trying to talk them out of it first and trying to use the amount of times I say use your words in a day, I'd like to punch myself in the face. Um, but I can really see my own parenting evolve over the 20 years of doing it. And that in itself still seems utterly ridiculous to me that I'm a 40-year-old with with 20 years, experience as a 23 years experience as a parent. Um, but I guess what the point is that just because we start doing things one way doesn't mean, I mean, there's no such thing as the perfect parent and there's no such thing as the perfect child. You don't leave hospital with this whole guide of, okay, this is how you raise a child.
Yeah.
Like we all just kind of do it and we wing it and we hope we don't fuck them up too bad.
And
Like,
even if we read a book, I'm like, well, what if it doesn't work?
but then you read another book that says the
Yeah.
opposite of the first book and you're like, did these people not like did you not like have conversations about like let's just like really confuse the parents of the world and we'll write the opposite books and see which one sells better? Like, was it a joke? How did that happen? um
Exactly.
and I think that's kind of where the business side of it comes in for me, because my 21-year-old was an ice addict. His first boyfriend was a drug dealer. And at the time, when we look back now, we can see, and he's always maintained that he took drugs because it stopped the voices and it stopped the hallucinations
Yeah.
from his
Mhm.
bipolar. And he, for 2 years, I held that mum guilt. How did I raise a child that become a drug addict like me, like the anti-drug person of the world? How did I do that? And then I had to sit and realize I was pregnant at the same age and made a decision that no one could talk me out of. I was having my daughter no matter what anyone said.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, hang on. He had that exact same maturity level in his mind to know what he was doing. It was his choice. It was nothing I did. Stop trying to take credit for something you didn't do, Allison. Um, and it took me 2 years to really forgive myself for something that I didn't do.
Mm.
And, I think when I know my family is not unique. My eldest daughter was a missing person. She wanted to go to a beach party with older kids and knew I'd say no. So pulled the old, I'm just going to go and stay at this girl's house. And my mummy senses were tingling. So I called said girl. Oh, no, she's not here.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Ended up it got to the point where I had to call the police and report her as missing. Yeah, my kids are angels, I tell you. So yeah, like assholes, a lot of them. And so I've been through some shit. But all of those things have made me who I am. And, out of all of my aunts, my mum was the problem child from my grandparents. But I just think my kids haven't done anything that isn't kids. I wasn't a normal kid. I can't base my childhood on theirs because my childhood was them. And I see now why everyone around me was so worried about becoming a parent so young. And I got married at 17 as well, and all of that stuff. By the time I could legally drink alcohol, I had 2 children. I was 18
Two
when I had my
small
second.
children, by the way.
Yeah, 20 months apart. Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah. And I just think, like, I wouldn't change it for the world. I love the fact that I'm now 40 years old. I've got a 4 and a 2-year-old grandchild that I'm still young enough to play with and to get excited by. They're kind of raised almost as a sibling to my 6-year-old because there's only almost 3 years between my daughter and my grandson. I love my life. I would not change it for the world, but that's not for everyone. And I accept that. But it means that I have the experience to talk on these things that some people don't or won't or are ashamed of, or whatever the case is. And as I said before, my family is not unique. Being a teen mum is not unique. Having a child that's addicted to drugs and in recovery is not unique. Having children with, neurodiversity is not unique. It's just that I think society has told us, and social media is amazing, but it has told us that this is the picture of perfect and this is all anyone wants to see. So don't post about the fact that you sat on the floor of your shower crying last night because your teething child won't stop crying and there's nothing you can do, or that, your child found scissors and cut their own hair, or draw on the wall with permanent marker, all the things that kids do that we still love them, but they just drive us up the damn wall, And that's why, going back to the business side of this, that's why I created From the Heart, because it is a no bullshit, no judgment, safe place to be able to get on and say, oh my God, I hate my kid today. Like, I think I need to differentiate that. I've raised my children with the motto that I will love you no matter what. There's nothing you can do that will make me not love you, but me liking you is dependent. That's dependent on your attitude and your behavior and your choices and all of that. And so saying that you don't like your kid is not a bad word. We love them no matter what. But, as someone whose child has treated me like absolute shit, to the point where he had to leave my home because of police intervention, he is my son and I love him to bits. I would still jump in front of a bullet for him. Do I like his choices? Do I like his behavior? Do I like what he's done? Hell no. But I love the shit out of him. And that's the difference, right? It's okay to not like your kids. It's okay to not like being a parent some days. It's all okay. And anyone that tells you any different is full of fucking shit and is either not raising their own children, somebody else is doing it for them, or they're just not paying attention, because you cannot love this job that we do 24/7. It's just not possible. Like, if you're actually doing it, the hours are long, the pay is in cuddles, and sometimes what did I cop this week? Oh, you are not my friend, Mum. That's how I got paid this week for parenting. I also copped a tantrum because I put the wrong color hair tie in her hair. I know. Someone called Child Protective Services on me because wrong color hair tie is completely, a whole meltdown worthy moment. And it's all of those funny things that at the time you're just frustrated, but afterwards you're like, if I don't laugh through this, I'm never going to get there. And that's the kind of community that I wanted to make, because it's all laughable. Most of it's laughable, like, having
some of it's just freaking hard and painful. But if anything we have learned, and this is what I've learned in the last 5 years of my life, is that as much as the pain sucks, leaning into it makes your life much more rich, because you're experiencing, we want to talk about the spectrum of emotions that we can experience in this human experience here, and sometimes a spiritual experience. it's all hard. And I don't like it when people say that everything is perfect and then you can call them up on the phone. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And
Mm.
it's not fine. And they're just
Yeah.
not going to talk about it. And
Yeah.
a big thing that you said earlier that I wanted to touch on, because for some reason today on my Facebook, I decided to write, I don't know if y'all do this over in Australia or maybe it's a worldwide thing. I don't know if it's cultural, honestly. But sometimes we celebrate the new year, right? Another
Yep.
year's coming. Maybe we've made a list of resolutions or wishes or bucket lists.
Yeah. That we didn't
Um,
do. Yep.
y'all do that. So
Yeah.
my thing, as I was sitting here this week, recognizing within myself, which I've heard you say too, is
Mm.
that learning to forgive yourself for some of these things. And I said, you know what? Screw the resolution list. I'm going to
Yeah.
make a forgiveness list for all these things that I've held on to that maybe I
Yeah.
thought I forgave, that I feel
Yeah.
like I need to forgive now. Like it could be
Yeah.
anything, as a parent, as a person, as a daughter, sister, wife, mother, whatever, that some of us are needing to forgive ourselves for. I think
Mm.
I just kind of want to put that onto this podcast too, because it's so important in this journey, just
It
as
really
you're
is.
walking it out, to learn
Yeah.
how to forgive yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that we will talk about tattoos and stuff as well. But for
Yeah.
me, I oh look, I've lost count. I'm gonna say maybe I have 20. A lot of them are actually in places that are hidden. They're there just for me.
Oh,
Uh,
yes,
I
yes.
have about 6 that are in memorial for a partner that I lost. He passed away.
Yep.
But my most recent was one for pregnancy and infant loss.
Mm.
I had 2 miscarriages, and so I have that symbol on my arm now. And I think for me, the big, like, think of the movie Inside Out, those big core memory balls, the big yellow ones. I For all of those big moments in my life, I have them on me, and I have them even if they're a hard thing to think of,
Yeah.
because I made it through. And I think that's the beauty of tattoos. It can be just purely for prettiness, or it can really have that deep meaning that reminds you on those days where you just feel like shit. It's a reminder that, oh my God, I survived that. Like I got through that. Like, of course I can get up and make a cup of coffee, whatever it is that you're struggling with. Um, someone said to me the other week, when I was showing them the new one, he said to me, "Oh, you got a new adult stamp." And I'm like,
Yeah.
so I now refer to my tattoos as adult stamps, because that's just, I love it. But like I also have on my forearm, I have 2 tattoos. One is an owl. When my mum stands next to me with her forearm,
Mm.
her owl matches up with mine, and it's actually
Oh.
one picture. And then on the other side, my eldest daughter, when she stands next to me, I have Mrs. Potts from Beauty and the Beast. Underneath mine, it says, "For them, I risk it all." And on
Oh.
hers, she has Chip, the little cup, and it says, "Because of her, I will not fall."
Oh.
So when
Okay,
the
that just
three,
gave me heart palpitations in a happy way.
yeah,
That's so wonderful.
when the 3 generations stand together, I'm the middle component. Obviously, I join my
Oh.
mum and my daughter in this thing. I'll have to send you a photo of it too, so that people can
Absolutely,
see what we're
because
talking about.
yeah, generationally speaking, you just summed it up beautifully on how just not only in our life expansion, but how you can commemorate these moments in a tattoo, right? So I
Yeah.
have to tell, you're going to be the first person I tell on my podcast about my new tattoo.
Oh, let's do it. I'm already
So
planning my next one.
we have a few more minutes left here, so we're going to get right into it. So I met
Yes.
a person online, very much like yourself, just had an online conversation. We've had many clubhouse talks and audio. We've never had video talks before that I can remember. So we met each other for the first time last week, literally a week from today. And
Hey.
she's like, I heard about this tattoo place in Vegas that you can go get a $10 tattoo. And I was like, well, that sounds amazing. Let's go. And so this friend who I just met in person, who I've been talking to for 2.5 years, we went and got little tattoos. And I have to tell you, I got myself the cutest little alien spaceship. I don't even know. I keep getting it on areas you can't
Oh,
really
stop
see.
it. Adorable.
Cute little alien spaceship, and she went and got a kind of like the rock sign with little claws coming out of it, and then
Oh,
a little
yeah.
butterfly. And I just have to say, very much how you described you standing with your family is how I felt standing with her. It's like a
Yeah.
connection of a
Yeah.
memory, of an image, of everything that I love about my photography, about having conversations just like this. So as we're
Yeah.
starting to round out our talk here, we have about 8 minutes left. So what
Yes.
should we leave everybody with today besides getting a tattoo?
Yes. Yes. For those of you that are sitting there wondering, should I, shouldn't I? The
Yeah.
answer is always yes. It's always yes. Um, yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to that other than
Those
it's just
wonderful
yes.
like wrapping up our episode here in we've
Yeah.
been talking about generational things. We've been talking about discovering about your children and yourself at the same
Yeah.
time as far as neurodivergence. And I think that's a beautiful thing is to be
Yeah.
okay with that journey wherever it takes you, right?
You know what?
So let's add to that.
I think that there seems to what people think, there seems to be this influx of people, you know, with ADHD or with something that has a label. And I think that's bullshit. I think we've always had that amount of people with them. We just didn't have enough knowledge and enough resources and enough
Yeah.
of any of it to realize that that's what it was. And now it's become, you know, that it used to be so taboo to be different and to be weird. Um, be be your weird self. Like, why would you want to be like anybody else? You are you, and no one else can be you. And I think accepting what we just said, labels are just a name that's given to something to understand it. If we can just let go of the, oh God, that's gonna, you know, um, taint me, or it's going to make me something that I'm not. You already were it. You've always been that. It's just that now somebody else recognizes it and can point you in a direction of how to understand it better. If we can just drop that, the stigma around having a label, I think we would all be so much happier and better off, because it doesn't change you. It just helps you understand. You know, as parents, if, and I use this analogy all the time, if our child breaks an arm, our job is to take them to a hospital, have an x-ray, get a cast, and help it fix, you know, help it get fixed and healthy. If your child has a mental health issue, it is your job to go and seek that help, go and get those x-rays and find out what's wrong. And then, you know, with your healthcare professional, decide how what that cast looks like. For my child, it's medication. That's what helps her. That's what helps that bone heal, so to speak. It might be therapy, it might be physio, whatever it is. And I think if we stop looking at things in a way that, you know, that we've been told is a bad thing, and just look at it the way that it is. All we're trying to do as parents is give our kids the best chance at life and to help them grow into functional adults that we're proud of. And screw what anyone else thinks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's part of the journey. It is so much part of this journey. And I think we ought to give a little bit more grace to each other as some of us are still figuring things out. There's a whole bunch of people that just don't know. Either
Yeah,
they've chosen to ignore it, and I'm going to call some of y'all out that have ignored it and just like brushed it under the rug. But why don't you take a moment right now and just kind of like sit there and face it? Because the only thing
yeah,
you're really going to end up facing is fear. And you know what? It has no place in your life anyway. Just
no.
put it in the back seat and keep driving the car.
Yeah, exactly. My
Oh,
16-year-old that is about to be assessed for autism is also questioning his sexuality. I mean, we've known he was bisexual for a couple of years. That's fine. But he's now questioning whether he's actually more female and that later on in life might want to transition. And I can't imagine any other response to that other than, okay, let's talk about that. Let's explore that. I don't
absolutely.
understand parents that are like, oh my God, you know, want, you know, even when my eldest son come out as gay, I lost family members. My biological father, I no longer have anything to do with because he had something derogative to say. Yeah, you can fuck right off, basically. I've raised my kids to be who they are and to be happy. If that means that they want to be, bright yellow with green fingernails, then I will go with them and support them on that transition, because all I care about is that they're happy, they're healthy, they're a good person. The rest just doesn't matter. What is RuPaul? We're all born naked and the rest is drag,
And we definitely, when we all die, we end up in a box somewhere.
Exactly.
And I'll leave y'all with this too. Like, this is very important that Allison brought up something great, but here's the thing, we're having conversation. And I think that is the power that we are able to have as human beings with a voice, is to sit and meet other people and talk with them about their lives.
Yeah,
Allison, I want to thank you for coming on to share a little piece of your life today. And I
my
want to
pleasure.
tell y'all that you are all a piece of a grand puzzle as well. Every bit of you is a piece to this grander puzzle. And I hope that you get to embrace who you are and embrace who you are fully. Thank you, Allison, for coming on. And we're going to sign off for now. Thanks
Oh,
for coming on.
thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.